up, dudes? HW here. I don't know what the heck that was. I had an idea to go somewhere and then went somewhere completely different, but it's kind of cool. Sometimes I forget the looper has an overdubber and you can put multiple parts on top of each other. And that's really cool. Back from NAMM. Hello. Beautiful, beautiful morning over here in Nashville. And dude, it's nice. It's nice right now, man. It's 35 outside, but feels like 34. And no, it's nice because it's been way cold, and it's nice to be able to like go outside in a sweatshirt and not be completely frozen. But back from NAMM, and boy, the weather was warm and nice, but the humidity was so low. It was like 28 outside, and I think it was like below 20 humidity inside because I ran into so many guitars at multiple booths that had like, it felt like sharp frets. But what I think it was the frets were sprouting on the sides from being several days in this super dry environment and then in this super air conditioned like room, you know? And I got my hair done. Thanks for noticing. Anyway, let's talk about, I want to tell you the coolest stuff I saw at NAMM. Some of these things I might elaborate on in future videos, but coolest stuff I saw at NAMM. Okay, absolutely number one coolest product that I think is coming up is this octave box at NAMM. It is the octave sound of everything. You can see it here. I went and checked it out with my buddy John. And so these guys last year showed a like prototype of this unit. This year they've got a case, they've got the packaging. They're about a month out from shipping. This is a Windows 11 touchscreen based thing with all sorts of like stuff that kind of I think comes built in, like I think Gig Light and THU comes in it, but you can Reaper, you can load on anything that is like Windows 11 compatible. You can run Neural DSP plugins, any VSTs you can run. You can run NAMM. You can run Helix Native. What really is attracting me to this unit is I bring on most of my church gigs a iPad or an iPad, and I put it on the music stand because I'm a little bit lazy, and you know, you just like to have the charts there. Like I know the songs, but it's nice to reference, especially when there's like an alternate chord or there's like a lot of times songs at the end of a chorus will like, you know, they'll double choruses, but like that last chord will be different, or there'll just be some variation, right? I like to have it there. And also, you know, I can write on notes. I can write little notes on my iPad pretty easily. And what's good is if I write it on paper, I have to put it on the floor. But the iPad I can easily elevate because I'm usually next to the drums. So it sort of just visually blends in with that guy's cymbals. You know what I mean? Like something that high. And I can put it kind of to the side of me and it just faces me. I put the brightness low and it's all cool. In the past, I've used like a Bluetooth foot switcher to switch through the songs. But a lot of times I just reach over and like hit it when I want to go to the next song. This thing could actually do both of those. And I think for a lot of people, like you could run tracks off this, you could run Ableton off it, you could record your guitar in a much better way. Like you could actually send everything out to the sound booth and record your direct signal. And I guess you could reamp it later. You could just, there's so much you could do with this thing. I was even thinking if I go on the airplane to NAMM next year, or I have like a fly date and I bring this rig, I wouldn't even pack this being my rig in my suitcase. I would just watch a movie on it on the airplane. And it's got like a battery and stuff. So I think, I don't even know quite how I would use an item like this exactly, other than I could run a bunch of VSTs, and I probably would. I'd put NAMM, I'd put Helix on it, like Helix Native, and use that for effects. You could put Tonex. I mean, just, you can do so much on this thing. I think that's really cool. That was my coolest thing last year, coolest thing this year. And those guys are going to send me one, and I'm going to check out the unit, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to like do it on a weekend. So I'm really excited about that. Another really cool thing that a lot of people saw, I met Mark Sampson. Funny story, I actually sat down with this new Era 30 amp, and let me just tell you, the EF86 and the 12AX7 side are switched, So I plugged in where I thought the 12AX7 side was because I was going to try both sides. I slapped a chord, and this thing was so bright, but like it was bright and like clangy and chimey, and but like it didn't hurt. It was all the like bright, piercing, like the highs that would just pierce through, but it didn't hurt at all. You know what I mean? It was like so nice. So I look over, and I you start looking at everyone's name tag to see their name before you look at their face, because everyone's got name tags on. They're hanging like a placard around your neck. And I look, and I see, and I'm looking for the little red like exhibitor, because I'm like, does this guy work at Bad Cat? Can I ask him a question? I look, and it says exhibitor, and I look slightly up, it says Mark Sampson. And I just look at him, and I look him in the eyes, and I start laughing. And he starts laughing. He goes, did you have a question? And I go, I was just about to say, do you know about this amp? What kind of speaker would be in this cabinet? And I realized I'm talking to the guy who made the amp. And we both just chuckled. And Mark was super nice and took a while to explain to me why they moved the EF86 channel. He said, really, it's a better design because if that input's in the corner, the EF86 tube is in a much more isolated spot where sonically and like vibration-wise, it's acoustically dead in that corner. But if you move it to the center, it's acoustically like the most alive spot on the chassis, because the chassis is going to vibrate. And that's really not what you want in an EF86. Obviously, those things are much more prone to becoming microphonic, a much more sensitive tube than a 12AX7. So really, he was like, this is a better design than, the DC30, the BC30, the Samson stuff. Like, it's better that we moved it. It's got a blend where you can blend. Both channels are in phase, so you can blend the two channels together with a switch, or you can switch between them. I've owned DC30s. I currently own a Samson BC30, the Black Cat 30. So a couple, little changes, but there's matchless components inside. I have often told people I think that the Bad Cat stuff sounds kind of better than the Samson DC30 stuff, because this is where Mark went. He made amps. He was making little tweaks. It seems that he's making significant tweaks now to better build the amp, to offer more options. The EF86 side now has not just a tone knob. It has a tone knob, but there's no master cut. There's a treble, so it's marked treble. So there's no like master shared thing. So you really can dial each side in together and switch between them. I just want to say about that amp, as much as I heard it at NAMM, immediately struck me as the best sounding DC30, BC30 Samson type amp I've heard. There is something new going on there, and it was great. And I sat there and played it, I think way too long and way too loud, because John, who I've known for a couple of years and is a super nice guy, started giving me some looks because he was having a conversation. I was like wailing on this thing. And a couple times I would stop and chat with Mark, and then I turned it back up again, started going, and I was getting a couple looks from John. Gave me a look. Mark could tell I was enjoying the amp. And another guy at Bad Cat kind of glanced at me like, that's too loud, man. But those guys are gracious, so they didn't say anything, and I sort of read between the lines and turned it down, turned it off. It was great. It really was a great amp. So I know they're sold out for a while. I heard the rumor was, the first 10 or 12 people that bought it are all people who make captures. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. So I'm not going to be in a rush to do it. Like, I got to get out there first, Go support another capture maker, enjoy that amp. I will do it, and I will do it in the way I do things. I'll be extensive with it with speakers and everything, and might even be extensive with tubes. I'll get that amp in the Tone Jiggy collection for all the all-access people and everybody. But in the meantime, that's going to take a little while to get out there. Man, here was like a find. This like Fish electronic stuff. Every one of these, I tried a bunch of pedals at NAMM. Every one of these pedals was great. Like, the orange one was like an overdrive thing, but it could get fuzzy. And it was some of the coolest, like, lo-fi overdrive fuzz tones, like super usable, very like Black Crowes, a little bit like Queens of the Stone Age, like that Josh Holmes thing. Maybe not all the way, but very Black Crowes, very rootsy. I'm definitely going to get some of this stuff. He also had a digital reverb that was really cool. He had two fuzzes that were very cool if you're into fuzzes. It was actually very usable fuzzes, really nice. But that orange one seemed super, super usable. Like for me and what I do, and would be super inspiring. So 100% chance I'm getting that. I'm gonna reach out to him and see. Fish Electronics was the brand there, and I had never really seen their stuff. I didn't even get enough really information about it, but all I know is I played his stuff. We started chatting a little bit, but I was really just playing the whole time. Excellent, excellent stuff from Fish Electronics. I haven't received anything from that company. They're not paying me. Nobody really gave me anything at NAMM. That Octave company is probably going to send me one. I'll do a video on that, but the Fish stuff, I'm going to buy one of those. That's on my short list of like must-haves for NAMM. I also went by the Suhr booth, and they had an interesting guitar. Now, at first glance, I was not into their new single cuts when I saw them online. But when I saw them in person, they looked a lot better. And I'm not sure that I feel like my photos actually look a lot better than theirs. I don't know why. It's something about looking at that guitar right dead on might be the worst angle that it is to look at it. And that's all the photos I saw of it. So I played that guitar. It seems like they're kind of going, they told me it was kind of like, oh, it's a little bit based on the Aura, but it's a mashup of like an Aura and a T-style. You can obviously see that. Little confusing. It's a short scale. It doesn't quite look Les Paul enough, I think, to communicate that it's a Les Paul. So it kind of just looks like a short scale Telly. It really is a kind of a newer design, I think, for good or bad. Props to them, I guess, for doing a new design. Not my favorite looking guitar, but not a bad looking guitar, in my opinion. Now, I did try it out. It felt really good. There were two neck profiles. The Historic C neck profile was much more like a Les Paul and reminded me of an old Les Paul. And that made me feel like, okay, I get this does feel more single cut like. The other neck carve just felt like a Suhr to me. Felt like some of the other more modern Suhrs. And the pickups, it's an SSV and an SSH. So I think sonically it's going to be pretty much like all the other guitars, but it's a short scale. I think that's what they're going for here. I think it's like, hey, Tom Anderson has done short Ts for a while. Those are really popular with a lot of players. I think this is Suhr saying, we're going to do a short guitar. We're not just going to do it like a Telly. We have a bunch of Tellys. We're going to do it sort of like as a nod to, obviously, shorter scale guitars are usually single cut guitars. We're going to do something in our Suhr style, but with a little bit of single cut influence. I think it's cool if you're a Suhr guy who wants a single cut. I think I did hear rumblings online where people were like, hey, when are we going to get, sort of the production version of the Aura single cut guitar that they do, and or that they were doing? And I think the answer to that is it's not really coming. I think if you look at Suhr's pricing, I think they're at the top end of what they can do on a production model and try to bring the price down. And I think for that reason, that's why the Aura was so expensive. They weren't trying to get it down. I don't know. I don't think Suhr is going to do an SE version of something. They already tried to do that years ago with the Rasmus brand. And this was a cool guitar. If you wanted to make it more Les Paul-like, I would have liked to seen maybe two SSVs or some Thornbuckers in there. The SSV and the SSH kind of make it just seem like one of the other Suhr models that's out there. It doesn't seem unique enough to me to warrant like you got to go out and get this guitar. If you like a short scale and you are into Suhr, this is probably the model for you. Here's another cool find at NAMM. You kind of just wander around and find cool stuff. There's a lot of like well-known stuff and there's lesser known stuff. And sometimes the pedal tables, like the pedal boutique tables, have they kind of cram them all together, as the stomp box like pit or something. And there's some cool finds in there. Formula B released something called like That Screamer. And is it That Screamer? Yeah, That Screamer. Now, I talked to the gentleman who was making these. I guess they're made I think it's in Italy. But, yeah, it has these switches on the back. And it's a TS-808, TS-9, and TS-10. And this is a pedal I'm probably going to buy because I think that's a really cool kind of thing. I know that there's the bonsai and stuff out there, but I kind of dug this thing. The TS10 sounded really TS10 to me, and that's really what I liked. It instantly sounded like what I thought of TS10, the John Mayer, little brighter, little like clearer kind of sounding. I don't know if you know what a TS10 sounds like, you know what I'm talking about. That was a really cool find. I don't know if I honestly have never tried a bonsai, so I can't say this is better than that. But I do know that I turned on the TS10 setting. I was playing a Silver Sky, and I went, "This is instant like John tone." It sounded really good, and I was into that. That was a cool find. Now I did play a bunch of guitars, but overall, it was a little bit of a slow NAMM. There wasn't a ton out there. I'm going to do some other videos on this subject, but like, to me, Marshall really seemed to just miss the ball completely. On the one hand, I think Marshall had a really great NAMM, had a great new couple products come out. But on the other hand, I feel like the most obvious thing for them to do is to release like their amps in a modeling pedal version, kind of like the UA stuff. Because UA is killing it with those pedals. Like when I went around to all of the stations at NAMM, all the pedal setups, I saw no Tone X's. I saw only Iridiums and UA pedals. So like pedal makers were running their stuff into that. I don't know if UA made those available. I kind of think they did because I noticed all the pedal makers seem to have PRS SE guitars and those UA things. And I think they were provided to them. Or what happens is the UA and like PRS, they kind of go to all the companies and say, "Do you need guitars?" Because it's a free way, and then they just collect them at the end. It's a free way to, like PRS wasn't at the show, so it's a free way for PRS to basically make sure a lot of players play a PRS SE guitar at the show. They just hand them to each of any booth that needs it. It's like, if you need guitars, we have them. And so I must have played 20, PRS SE guitars. Every one of them was good and great. You know what I mean? Like, gosh, they're so ahead on the imports being great kind of thing. They really are in a league of their own. And consistency. But I noticed a ton of UA stuff. My understanding is UA does a similar thing. I did see some Iridiums, saw like 1 or 2 Helixes. I saw two booths full of Quad Cortexes and 2 booths full of Kemper players and Kemper racks. So kind of there was stuff all over, but surprised I didn't see a lot of Tone X. There was a Tone X booth. I talked to the Tone X guys. Obviously, they just released the cab. They did not release anything else, but they joked around with me a bit, and I can't tell if they're serious. Like, at one point they were like, "Oh, it's the Oracle HW." So I'm like, I don't know if you're confirming something or denying something. I really don't know. I didn't get anything from those guys. They were keeping it tight-lipped, But they did tell me, Chris at IK did tell me that after I put out that video about, they're going to release a new Tone X, he started getting emails from people saying, "Send me the new unit. I saw Tone Junkie has it. Send me the new unit. Tone Junkie has it." Which absolutely made my day at NAMM. That was like, that was so fun to hear that people were watching that video and were like, "He's got it. I know it." The truth is, if I know this, IK knows this, everybody knows this who's ever sent like an influencer, I hate that word, but influencer, content creator, anybody who's ever sent somebody with a YouTube channel, some dope with a YouTube channel, a pedal or something, and it hasn't been released, you usually sign an NDA. The NDA, of course, says you can't talk about it. It would be so like skirting the line of breaking that NDA if you were to sign that NDA and then go make a video where you pretend not to know something, because there's something you would say in there that you would inadvertently be hinting towards something or sort of leaning towards something that you do actually know is true, and it'd be impossible to say, "No, I was pretending like I didn't know," and they would never send you anything again if you signed an NDA, like, "I'm not going to show this," but then you played dumb and tried to make a video about it. So if I'm ever making a video predicting stuff, anything I'm talking about is truly something I don't know about, because I wouldn't want to jeopardize the relationship where they would, have mistrust for me that I would say something. In terms of predictions, they're totally cool. No one's ever had a problem with me going, "I think they're going to do this. I think they're going to do this," because I'm just like everybody out in guitar world, I'm just like everybody on the other side of the camera. I'm just guessing. I'm just talking. But sometimes what I'm trying to do is I know brands watch the videos I make about specific brands, because I'll see even years later, they'll tell me something. They'll say, oh, I saw your video, or they'll repeat to me something I said. And so honestly, it's a good way to like get feedback in the ears of people who you want to hear it. So like if I really stress, I think this feature is super important, it does reach the people, and your comments reach those people. I've had engineers of several companies, tell me like, I watched your video on this, blah, 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 blah. And I read the comments. Seemed like people were saying, many people were saying this, or some people were saying they don't want that at all. That is actually where being an influencer is an accurate term. And not just me, but you guys in the comments, because being able to suggest something to an engineer gets in their mind, and that might become a topic of discussion at a meeting. Where should we build this? Should we build that? Have we thought about this? Do we think? And that can be the beginning of, a feature being built in. Or it could be something they've already considered. It's not like anyone really has like a totally unique idea in terms of like, oh, no one's ever thought of this feature or something. But if you have a clever idea, it might be something that's already been tossed around, and it reinforces like, hey, there is a use case for this, or we see people do want this and we think it's very useful. And so that's a really cool thing to remember. When content creators are making content like this where they're just sharing opinions, you sharing your opinion down below, I guarantee you 100%, when I make the video in a couple days, Marshall should do this, or Marshall must do this, people at Marshall will watch that video. It will get to them, because there's no way you could be involved with Marshall and not be kind of curious what some dodo brain on the internet has to say, right? It's too close to home, you know what I mean? So you're going to watch it and you're going to listen. You're going to go, okay, this guy has an opinion, you know what I mean? And do I agree or disagree? And then they're going to look at the reaction, because you always look at the comments. And and you start to develop a consensus. Oh, there does seem to be people that want this, and brands are online, man. Brands are online. The PRP, I had 2 companies pull me aside this NAMM and ask me, what do you think of this in terms of marketing? Like, how do you think it affects, basically asking me, do I think YouTube influencers are effective? Do I think that it's effective to have a whole bunch of videos land at one time? Do I think it should be spread out? What's that look like? I had 2 brands pull me aside and ask me, basically, give me some advice, and I'm not the only one they're asking, I'm sure, you know what I mean? I'm sure they're asking multiple people. They're trying to develop consensus, what do you, as someone who's online a lot and part of the guitar community, want to see? How does it feel when a bunch of videos drop at once? One company asked me, what should we do? It's hard marketing a product on social media, and I said, and some of them said, it's hard. We don't know who's going to get a lot of views. Like, we don't know what the best channels or people are. And once you send them to the top 2-3 people, they're like, what do I do now? I thought that was a really interesting question, because I think that lends more to the like, who are the medium influencer people, the small influencer people, and even the micro influencer people? Who's somebody who just has 5,000 subs, 6,000 subs, but gets consistently 1,000 views, 1,000 views, 1,000 views, 1,000 views, who may be on the way up, who may be really into the product and is willing, it doesn't have a high price they're going to charge to do a demo, or they're happy to do it for just a pedal, and who has the audience that may already be looking right there. Obviously, if you have a new digital platform, this is a good channel for it, this channel. But also, if you have a new digital platform, Rhett Shull is a great channel for it. Rhett may not be the biggest, he's not using a QC and a Kemper and a Helix every day, but just the size of his channel dictates that he's a great person to put it on. But, maybe who's the people who are kind of small, but really have a specialty there? Who's the medium people? When I think of like a medium person who has a real niche, I think of Steve Sterlacci, right? I think of John Cordy's bigger now, but he's definitely a digital kind of focused guy. If you just want to go big, there's a bunch of channels. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So it's interesting. It's always interesting talking to brands at NAMM, and there did seem to be two trends I noticed this year at NAMM when I was talking to companies. One, the idea that NAMM is dead is over. Everybody sees that the show sort of like went like this, and it's going like this again. And now it's like the slow build back up. And I think that's healthy. I think a lot of people with COVID, there was a sharp fall off. There was a lot of like, you must go to NAMM, must go to NAMM, must go to NAMM. It jolted down, but NAMM has changed. The show is a little smaller. The big players are doing different things. Fender and Gibson were there, but they had private rooms away from everybody. And I think there's a change in what NAMM is. I think those bigger brands realize we really don't need to set out, 12 brand new made in Mexico guitars. We can just put the specs online. People can go try them in a Guitar Center. We'll have Andertons do the demos. And they really had a space for like very professional demos. NAMM had a space for demo makers and pack creators and whatever, people like myself to go try stuff and to make videos. I didn't really utilize it this year. But next year I will. Now that I kind of see what's there, I will be utilizing it actually. But the feeling that like you don't need to go to NAMM, I think that's also disappeared. I think now where it was just a blind frenzy of you must be at NAMM, must be at NAMM, must be at NAMM, get attention, NAMM, like it's just craziness and like competing with all the big brands. It's like people now realize there's an opportunity to go to NAMM, speak with people, have a good show. It is where the industry gets together. The big brands are still there, but they might not be on the floor. And it's an opportunity, I think, to connect with creators. I also noticed that this year, media, I used to get a media badge that was separated into content creator, I think like, influencer, pro player or something, there were these different categories they gave us now, not just general media passes, because I think it's helpful for the brands to know I'm talking to a YouTuber. So this is not someone I talk to about getting my thing featured in a publication or getting Pedal of the Month, from Premier Guitar or whatever. This is someone who has an individualized style and an individual audience that may or may not care for my product or not, or this may be the perfect match, maybe the perfect niche. I think the show and the industry in that way is in a much healthier place. I had some uncomfortable conversations with a couple other YouTubers, which was kind of strange, but maybe I'll do a video on that. Maybe I won't. I'm not really sure how I feel about all those interactions yet. I'm still processing them in my head, but all that to say, be nice to people. You should be kind to people. Like, it costs you nothing to be nice. And so, you don't really know a person just because you watch their videos. And if I don't know, just be nice to people. Don't be someone who's like easily angry or like easily offended, because it sucks. It sucks when you meet people for the first time and then they have a preconceived notion and they feel like telling you to your face. It just, it sucks, right? And even if you kind of like, it's like, okay, you kind of talk through it a little bit, it's not how you don't do that to people who are smaller than you. And I'll just tell you, everybody who comes up to me at NAMM, I love your videos. I love you. I stop. I listen to them. I am so intentional about never trying to give anybody a cold shoulder, like, oh, I'm busy, I'm going somewhere. If that were to happen, I would apologize profusely. Like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'd love to chat. I have a meeting right now. Like, thank you so much. But I always like look at people and once they're done with their little spiel, I watch your video, whether it's I've learned so much on Kemper, I watch your daily videos, dude, I love your stuff, or hey, you're that guy, whatever the thing is, right? Or like, do I know you from somewhere? That sort of thing. And then I say, oh yeah, I have the channel. Once they're done with that, I always a question, how's the show going for you? Or I look at their blank, oh, so you're local, huh? I say, yeah, so where do you live in the area? I say, or I see like, oh, you're an exhibitor. What company are you with? I always ask about the person, what they're doing, who they are. Because I learned a long time ago, the trick to having people like you is not to be interesting, but to be interested. My pastor just said that last Sunday, and I stole that. But I learned a long time ago, actually, people really respond positively to being asked a question about themselves. Some people have no problem volunteering who they are, information, telling you things they want to know. Very extroverted people. They just, let me tell you. But if you're more introverted, you're more shy, or just more polite in a conversation, people really appreciate being included and asked, hey, what do you, how's the show going for you? You seen anything cool? Because people are just people. Whether you have, 250,000 subs or 1 million or 40,000 or 10,000 or no subs at all, and you're just a regular person who enjoys the guitar, you're just people. And there is a sort of, I saw it in people this year, and it was a bummer. It was a bummer. It's a bummer to make videos and think that there's like this hierarchy. Because it's just stupid. You know what I mean? And people can speculate on who I'm talking about. Let me tell you who's a freaking cool guy. I started at the same time as Rhett Shull. We both had 1,500 or 2,000 subs at the same week. And I remember, I can't remember the exact numbers. We were both below 2,000, and I discovered his channel. And I was like, this is a cool channel. And I was trying to do some of the same stuff he was doing. But I had quickly gone more towards the Kemper side. And I saw him at Nashville NAMM that year. And I said, hey, man, I watch your channel. He's like, oh, thanks. Rhett was nobody yet. And I said, I remember this. I said, keep doing what you're doing, dude. You're about to blow up. And he's like, really? And the reason I said that was because I had noticed that he and I had been neck and neck. And then he jumped up about 500 or 600 subs in just a couple weeks. And at the size we were at, that was a lot. And I was like, yeah. And I could tell he had a really cool balance of Rhett was a player who was playing, but he was a personable guy. He could play the guitar. He had an approachable style. And I was like, this guy's really good on YouTube. And I was sort of trying to figure out what I wanted to do and everything. And I was still I can't remember if I was really into Kemper yet, or I was just starting the channel. I think I was into Kemper. I think I was doing that stuff. And, Rhett's big time. And sometimes I see him walking around and I yell, Hollywood! And Rhett and Tilly, still, every time I see them, hey, man, hey, you know what I mean? They don't cold shoulder you. He's introduced me to the people he hangs with. You know what I mean? They're kind people. They're the real people you see. When you see them being kind of the video, they're really those people. When the record button gets turned off, they're still the same people. They look you in the eye. They talk to you. They ask you questions. They take a while to talk. They tell you about themselves, about how are you doing on YouTube? How am I doing? We talked about 2020, where views went with that, how the ad changes and everything. How was it like living in Georgia and moving? Just all that stuff. They're just real people, and I always appreciate that, and I always appreciate them. And and it's always nice, when they're like, oh, and here, yeah, this is some other big guy that is a celebrity. Oh, this is HW, and the Andertons guys are cool like that too, they've seen my channel. We've corresponded a couple times, and I sent them some stuff to use in some videos. They're the normal people, so kind. You know what I mean? Pete and Captain, kindest dudes. They'll stop and chat with you. Hey, HW, take a photo. Yeah, what'd you have for lunch? I mean, it's the most mundane thing. They're just kind people. And unfortunately, I felt like I learned this year there's a big divide. There's a big chasm. There's those people on this side, and then there's some people just way on the other side. And it's such a bummer. Such a bummer. Really disappointed. Anyway, now that I bummed myself out, I've been HW. That was NAMM.